And last year we launched Bloomberg Green Docs, which is our short documentary film competition focusing on films about climate and highlighting the power of documentary filmmaking to help change the world we live in. We're accepting submissions through April 26, 2024, and we'll award a $25,000 grand prize at our film festival in Seattle this coming July. Please scan the QR code behind me to learn more about the competition. And I'm delighted to welcome last year's grand prize winners, Nadia and Dominic Gill, to tell you a little bit more about their work and show you the winning film, On a Wing and a Prayer.
Thank you. Careful. Hello, everyone. This is Nadia, my wife. I'm Dominic. We are in Compass Films. I didn't get into filmmaking and outdoor and environmental content in a conventional way. I bought a tandem bicycle and a camera and flew up to the top of Alaska, rode the tandem bicycle down to the bottom of Argentina and picked up strangers on the back and told the story of that journey. It took about 2 years, and on that journey, someone that didn't actually get on the bicycle with me was my wife.
Well, I wasn't his wife, obviously, at that time, but it was about 2008, and I was a real estate finance attorney, and then the market crashed, and there was no real estate deal to be made probably for a number of years, so I left, and I went to Bolivia just to have a backpacking trip, where I met Dominic, who was riding his bike, and I thought, this is pretty weird. This guy is riding a tandem bike alone, and he's in the middle of a salt flat. But I was actually really interested by what he was doing, because he was inviting people into his space in like an unusual way that was incredibly human. And I didn't know that there were people that would put themselves out there in the world that way. So when I got back home, I never got a job in law again, really. Instead, I started in Compass Films, and I sponsored Dominic to come to America, actually. And then we got married, and we've been doing Encompass Films ever since.
So now we make primarily outdoor and environmental content, but I've realized after that first journey that making any content is really just human stories. So it doesn't matter what message you're trying to tell. If you can't connect with a human on screen, and hopefully a human that you can relate to in some way, then your story will probably fall on deaf ears. And certainly the environmental world, which is a hot button topic and one we concentrate on, is no different from that.
Yeah, in fact, I would say that's one of the big paradoxes we need to resolve, is that a lot of people think of the environment as something separate from themselves, when it's actually, we are very much part of the environment. Everything is interrelated, and it's an ecosystem that we affect in every way and affects us back in every way. And so climate stories are human stories, and that's sort of where we focus our energy. We like to tell a broad range of what we would consider climate stories. We like to tell them as they affect people who live in the South, as they affect people of different demographics. We're even making a film on conservative climate change advocates right now. I know what you're thinking. Yes, there are conservative climate change advocates out there. And so our mission is very inclusive. It's very broad, and we just really want to see people change their relationship with the environment. It's an imperfect journey. We're imperfect advocates ourselves. But that's where we are, and we did win the Bloomberg Green Docs prize last year, which was such a great honor. And so we're going to show you the film that which won. It's actually part of 5 films. It's a 5-film short film series, all about different stakeholders in the Bayou of Louisiana and how it affects, how the land disappearance is actually affecting their personal lives.
Yeah. So this guy is a fine art photographer who you'll see flies over the wetlands and takes incredibly stunning photos of its disappearance. So I hope you enjoy, and if you want to see the other films, you can go to lastcallforthebayou.com and see the other 4 of this series.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the film.
every photo is like a drive-by. I've probably flown 200 times in South Louisiana.
And how many good pictures do you think you have?
20.
How many decent ones do you think you have?
50. On the website it was saying this belt is usually used on treadmills. The pipe to the carburetor is some sort of vacuum cleaner assembly. I first saw South Louisiana from the air flying in and out of New Orleans on commercial flights. It's an infinitely complex ecosystem. What I really wanted to do was just go up in the air and explore.
Okay, so were you thinking sail to the same campsite or somewhere else so that you get closer to the next island?
I kind of want to fly to this other island. That's going to be 4 miles, like 6 miles, 8 miles. Either way.
My mom's texting you.
I was always intrigued by the barrier islands. It's an interesting landscape that I wanted to fly and photograph. We bought this sailboat in an effort to use less gasoline. People used to use this kind of boat 100 years ago in Louisiana for oystering and fishing. So we thought it would be a smart move to use that to get around out here. In an ideal world, my paramotor wouldn't burn any gasoline, but this is the most efficient way for me to get up in the air and fly around until I stop flying around and just sail the rest of my life.
We should go wander around and look for dead things on the beach.
I'm so hungry right now. Tonight is Bush's grilling beans and a can of green beans, and it should be delicious. My neighbor is a scrapper and scraps aluminum and often finds canned food, the food that he doesn't want, he gives to me. So I've got a whole bag of canned food over here. These barrier islands are eroding at rates of something like up to 60 feet per year. When you look at the maps, it's just a thin beach line, but in reality, you can see where they've been rebuilding the beaches all throughout this area to try to preserve this bit of life for a little longer. The reason I started working on this project was essentially environmental communication. I think these images can be used by the scientific community to kind of raise awareness about how this landscape works.
Great flight the other day. That was cool. Yeah. A lot of my work has been down here. For me as a scientist, I very closely link education and research. Part of research is to educate people. I collaborate with some folks from NASA, and they can calculate a vegetation index, how much vegetation is there, But one of the problems with satellites is you don't really know exactly what they're looking at, whether it's algae or whether it's marsh grasses.
Yeah, I mean, from 50 feet up, you can tell what type of vegetation it is exactly. And
Right, in a way that would be much more precise than you could get from an airplane.
South Louisiana feels like you're in some kind of remote wilderness until you get up in the air, and then you can see that you're just surrounded by miles and miles of oyster leases, shrimpers trawling. The horizon is just dotted with endless oil rigs. Everything is exploited in one way or another. Everywhere you look, you see these oil and gas pipeline canals. Those canals are what allowed saltwater intrusion to penetrate so far north and then killed the vegetation, which was holding the soil in place, and then that's what really triggered most of the wetland loss.
Deep in the woods, lost the shadowlands, where brother bear is weeping his deepest lament.
I've met old people down in this area that tell me this used to be meadow where they grazed cattle, and now it's just open water with the edges of the canals remaining. When I started this project, I had in my mind a handful of images that would tell the story of wetland loss. And then experiencing this place drew me in and kept me exploring. It's really become a process of going out and looking for, like, magic.
Mother sun sings a song so sweet. Start to bud, green world is free.
I love New Orleans, but try to be realistic about living here. You know, one major hurricane without that protection of the wetlands, we'll all be finding a new place to live. There's so much value in this ecosystem. Hopefully I'm able to capture a little bit of that with my photographs and kind of make people think about this place a little more. When I'm flying, I often have this feeling of overwhelming beauty with this like deep sadness for what's been lost. Two feelings at the same time, constantly.